Hello students, Standard 6th, Chapter 3, Fiber and Fabrics. The revision is going on. Now we see the things about the fibers. That there are variety of fabrics available when you go to a shop, clothing shop. The clothing material will be like a cotton material, or it's woolen, or nylon, silk. Means it can be made from the natural fibers, or some of the fibers will be like that, which are not obtained from the natural resources, but they are made by the chemicals, from the chemicals in the factories, which are known as man-made or synthetic fibers. And those synthetic fibers are made, but first of all, we have to, in this chapter, we already saw about the natural fibers only. The yarn is made from the very thin strands, and then they are made up of very thinner strands also, which are known as fibers. And fibers make the thin strands, and then those strands again spin and make a yarn. Now the fibers, natural fibers, are specially of two types: the plant fibers and animal fibers, means obtained from the plants and animals. In the last session we saw that the cotton and jute are the plant fibers. Cotton is obtained from the cotton plant. When the cotton balls are matured, they burst open, and you can see the cotton seeds along with the fibers around it, and it looks like a snow is falling on the farm. Then we saw that different processes are done on it, like ginning, and then the fibers are obtained. We saw that jute plant is also, when it is matured, cut and put it into the water. Then after 2-3 days, when it's getting rotten, then the fibers are separated from it. Now we saw that the fibers are separated, and then to make the fabrics, first they are converted into yarns. So now what is to done now? Spinning the cotton yarn, how the yarns are made. So generally the wool, if you take cotton wool especially in your hand and pinch some of the cotton, pinch the cotton and try to pull up and twist it, then you will be able to make a long thread out of it. So pinch some cotton between the thumb and forefinger, then gently start pulling out the cotton, and same time you have to start twisting also. Then you will see that you will able to make a yarn. So you yourself can make a cotton yarn by taking a bunch of small amount of cotton fibers. With the other hand, the thumb and the forefinger, pinch some of the cotton and then pull it and with the twisting also. So you will be able to make a yarn. Generally the process of making yarn from the fiber is known as spinning. What is spinning? The process of making yarn from the cotton fibers or any fibers is known as spinning. And in this spinning process, the cotton wool are drawn out and twisted, and it comes together to form a yarn. A simple device used for spinning is called a spindle and spindle, or it is also known as takli. And another hand operated device is the charka, or in the Gujarati એને કહેવાય રેટિયો. So the device used for spinning are the takli or the hand spindle, or the another hand operated device is known as charka. And charka is associated with our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, because Mahatma Gandhi was regularly using charka to make the cotton yarn for the handloom, hand spun, homespun yarn, and then the cloth made from it is known as khadi. So use of charka was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi when there was the independence movement was going on. So he encouraged people not to use the foreign clothes but the Indian clothes, to wear clothes made from homespun yarn termed as khadi, and shun, imported cloth made in the mills of Britain. So he told the people, he encouraged the people to not using the clothing material which is imported from the mills of Britain, but he encouraged them to use the khadi, which is the homespun yarn. And to popularize the khadi, the government of India also constituted a body which is known as Khadi and Gramodyog. In Gujarati, if we apply to Khadi and Gramodyog Vikas Board. In English, it is known as Khadi and Village Industries Commission. So government also has established this constitution called Khadi and Village Industries Commission in 1956 to promote the khadi. So that is the question number 2, that explain how khadi and homespun clothes promoted in India. So Mahatma Gandhi also and government also has some efforts to popularize the khadi in our country. In spinning of yarn on a large scale is done with the help of spinning machine. So if it is on the small scale, you can use that takli or you can use that charka. But if it is on the large scale, means too much spun that means the yarn is to made, then for that spinning, the spinning machines are used. And after spinning, yarns are used for making fabrics. So now the next step is how the clothes are made. So clothes are made generally by some methods. First is the weaving, and the wool is used by the knitting also. So first weaving. So the two main processes, as I told you, to make fabric from the yarn, and that are the weaving and knitting. So what is weaving? Weaving is like to fabric. Two sets of fabrics, two sets of yarn are taken and they are interwoven with each other, arranged together, and then fabric is made. So that process is known as the process of weaving. So that can be done, that can be understood with the help of the piece of different color papers also. You can take some 30 centimeter width, piece of length and width equal to 30 centimeter from each sheet. And then if you interwoven like that shown in the figure in the book, you can see, and then they are do like that, in which the the two colors strips are knitted together, woven together such that a very nice design is made. Similarly, the same thing is done in the machines for the weaving. So pattern of weaving can be different according to you use the different color of yarn. So two sets of yarn are woven to make a fabric. So you need two sets of the yarn. The yarns are much thinner than our paper strips. Now the device that used for weaving is known as looms. Looms can be of two types. It can be operated by hand also, which are known as hand looms. And the cloth made in the hand looms are also known as handloom clothes. Similarly, the other looms which are operated by power, and they are known as power operated looms. So, hand operated looms or power operated looms. There are two types of, because if it is a small scale, then you can use the hand operated, but if it is on the large scale, so much clothes are to be made, then we can't use the hand operated, but we need the power operated looms, which are known as power looms also. The other process is the knitting. Generally, the woolen articles like the sweater, muffler, shawl, etc., they are done by the knitting process, in which only one single set of yarn is used. Or if you want to make it different color, then you can use the different colors yarn also. And they need one or two big needles for it. And with the help of the needles, maybe you have seen your mother or your grandmother that knitting with the two needles or one needle, so that they can make as shown in the figure here. Weaving, knitting, right? So that is the process of knitting, by which the socks or the woolen cap, sweater, shawl, mufflers, etc. can be made. And knitting is also done by the machines also. Small things you can make by the hand also, but for a large quantity we can use the knitting machines also. And then the fabric made by either weaving or knitting are used for the making clothes. Different type of clothes are made from these fabrics. Now we have to learn about the history of the clothing materials. In the ancient time, you know that people do not know about the clothes. They don't even know about the fibers and etc. So in those times, people used the bark of the trees or the big leaves of the trees or the animal skin and furs to protect and cover themselves. Bark of the tree is like a cloth. If the big leaves are there, they use that things, or the skin of the animal. They use those materials to cover their body. But then after they start to settle down for the agricultural communities, because in the beginning there was no agriculture. They didn't know how to do farming, and therefore they were wandering around. But then they started staying at one place because of the farming, means they start agriculture, and then learn to weave twigs and grass into mats and baskets. Vines, animal fleece or hair were twisted together into long strands, and thus they started. These were woven into fabrics. The early Indians wore fabrics made out of cotton that grew in the regions near the river Ganga. First time they used that. Flax is also a plant that gives natural fibers. In ancient Egypt, cotton as well as flax were cultivated near the river Nile and were used for making fabrics. In those days, now we know that stitching means we buy the clothing materials, and then according to our body they cut, and then they stitch again. So stitching is very popular now, but in those days when the fabric were started, they don't know the stitching, and therefore people simply draped the fiber or the fabrics around the different parts of their body, and many different ways of draping fabrics were used. But when the sewing needle was invented, and then the people started stitching, and we today use the stitched fabrics like our trousers or the shirts or any other materials, clothings. They are done by the stitching with the sewing needle. But stitched clothes have gone through many variations. But some of the fabrics are still used without stitching. For example, the ladies wear sari. In sari there is no stitches. Also, the dhoti, lungi or the turban that is used to cover the head, pagdi jine apne kahiye, and lungi and the dhoti. These are the fabrics which are still we are using without stitching also. So that is the story about the clothing items. So here we are going to finish today's session and revision of chapter 3 also. And as an assignment, I already discussed all these questions, so you can write down as an assignment. And confusion, then there is comment section. Thank you very much.